Hey guys, thanks for joining us this morning. Sorry we're running a little late. You gave us your time, and we want to try to honor that as much as possible. But thanks for taking time out of the show to join us. You could be anywhere else and chose to be here, so thank you very much. Quick introduction: my name's Tony Stairs. I have the honor and privilege to lead audio sales for us here in North America with Lawo. Also, kind of a side note, I also oversee House of Worship for Lawo as well, which we've kind of been in for a few years now and kind of expanding into the market. And so I want to have an opportunity this morning to introduce you to some people that are in that space day to day and just kind of talk about our solutions and kind of talk about the journey of selecting a console, for your church and kind of what that looks like. So Jordan, you want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are and tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Brainerd. I'm from Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills in SoCal, and we're a relatively, I don't want to say, we're to say, what non-denominational church out there, and we have roughly, I think, 13,000 adults on a Sunday morning, and I'm the audio director there, and that's the question you asked.
Yeah.
And I've been on staff there for 15 years, and I've been going there all my life. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, my name is Dave Bookout. I have the privilege of serving as the production pastor at Grace Family Church in Tampa, and we're a church with 8 campuses, and we have about 15,000 people in attendance on an average weekend. And then I also have a consulting firm called Mission Creative, working with churches on the creative side of their ministry.
Great. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time and joining us. So awesome. So you're a Lawo user. That's kind of why you're sitting here today.
Mm-hmm.
And take us a little bit on that journey, of selecting a console. You wound up with this kind of, non-traditional German manufacturer. I went that route as well. So for you guys out there, I was at a church, so I bought a Lawo console, and little did I know I'd be here, but here we are. But I took that journey, but I want you to tell your story as well.
Yeah. So we were on a journey of a new soundboard for a while. It was about a whole year journey going through everything. We were given the task because we had a roughly 10-year-old soundboard, and I said, hey, it's kind of dying, and they wanted to get more into the broadcast world as a church, and because our live stream was doing more than we expected, and they said, hey, it's time for you guys to get a new console. I said, great. So we demoed a total of 8 consoles from 4 different manufacturers over a course of a year. After demoing 3 of them, 3 of the popular brands, I sat there in the office with one of my colleagues and I said, none of these are right for us. None of these fit the scope of what we have to do. None of these can turn on a dime. Some of these aren't even being supported well, or they're old technology. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And then our integrator sent us a couple months later. He's like, what about this? I was like, who has this right now? Who has this in the area? He's like, no one really. And I was like, they're all on the East Coast. And I was like, oh, well, let's demo it and see. And then I can make a decision on this. And so we demoed 2 of their consoles, and I was like, okay, this seems right. It seems like the end user and our volunteers, because that's what I always look for, is a volunteer-friendly console. It seems like the volunteers can really come in from the smaller consoles, little SQ consoles all over campus, to one of these very easily and do that transition. So that's why, and it sounded amazing too. So the band was happy with the sound when we demoed it, and we were happy with the volunteer friendliness of these consoles. And so we were super stoked on that. And
So best of both worlds, right?
best of both worlds, yeah. And
So-
then Lawo was willing to work with us and actually support the consoles, which was very important to me.
Yeah, that's always intriguing to people because we're lesser known in the space. So it's what does support look like and things like that. So tell us your final setup. What did you wind up with?
We ended up with an MC squared Mark II or 56 Mark II, and then Mark III. Thank you, and a power cord for a broadcast SRT, and then I think ended up with 3 A-Stage 64 boxes, and then ended up buying 2 more for our orchestra setup of the A-Stage 64, and everything works flawlessly.
Rough input and output count on weekends.
On a weekend
With orchestra, maybe.
with orchestra, it's 128 because we have to individually mic everything, and output counts probably there's an average of what 10 in-ear mixes happening, and then a year later, even more progress. These guys came up with a monitor mixing app for the band, which was lovely to have. So
you're doing front of house monitors and broadcasts from one console.
From one console.
With a volunteer.
With a volunteer. So it's 80% volunteers on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night when we have everyone.
And how many services you do?
3 on Sunday, 1 on Wednesday, and a bunch of other services throughout the week.
Cool. So you're on this journey now. Like,
Yeah.
we met, a few years ago.
Yeah. It's been a great few years.
Yeah. I'm glad. And I mean, so I wanted you here. You're currently you don't own a Lawo solution.
Not yet.
And hey, yeah, this is all just a ploy, really,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But no, I just thought it'd be cool to take people on the journey. Somebody that's in the process, somebody that I respect in the industry. Just kind of talk about where you are and like why would you even consider us? So kind of maybe talk about your current setup and kind of what you're looking forward to. For a solution.
Yeah, so I transitioned into Grace Family Church a few years ago, and kind of coming in, I think the first week, noticing the console setup that we had across 8 of our campuses, we were having issues with the majority of them and weren't able to get a lot of the parts we needed. And so I think I had a conversation with our senior pastor, the first week I was there, that hey, I want to put this on your radar. We're going to need new consoles. And so went on a journey. I've mixed on pretty much everything except for Lawo, and we started looking through the lens of that church and particular needs that we had. And one of the things that we really wanted to be able to do was auto-tune. And so I have been burned with volunteers before on some of the other consoles out there doing auto-tune with MIDI changes between scenes and things like that. In waves, and where they didn't realize we were in the wrong key. And so actually one of the things that led me to Lawo was the console link integration between Lawo and waves, where you have that feedback. It's not just one direction with MIDI, but if there's a disconnection, you're going to know about it. And so it definitely became apparent pretty quickly that it was more of a volunteer-friendly desk, especially with the way that we were trying to accomplish some of the things we're trying to do. Obviously, flexibility is always important. You want to be ready in the church setting, especially a church like us, where our pastor might want to do something crazy on a specific weekend. We want to be able to accomplish that. But a lot of times with flexibility comes more complexity. And one of the things I loved about Lawo, and I had a chance to get my hands on the console and do 3 weeks on it last summer. And then we took it to, we do a huge camp with 1,000 kids every year. And so was able to mix on it for a week. And I love that it has flexibility without a lot more complexity. And I would say that was one of the big things for us, because volunteers are going to have to mix on it, and it's going to have simplicity, and it needs to have tools internally in the console and tools available externally, like auto-tune, that's not necessarily built into a console, where volunteers can easily navigate it. And I think sometimes there's other consoles out there that have all these different plugins and models and things like that, and those are great, but they can get really confusing really fast. And so I think there's something beautiful, especially when you have volunteers across 8 campuses and you're trying to create consistency, about having the same channel strip on every channel. It's the same setup. You teach this kind of one setup, and it does everything that we need it to do. And so I think for us, that journey has really led us to Lawo. But I would say more than anything, the thing I've been super impressed with is just how much they care about the market. Tony has a pastor's heart. He understands church. He's been in it. And for us, it's really more about a partnership than anything, to be able to have somebody who can be an extension of our ministry. And in the future, as we're launching more and more campuses, to be able to make a call and go, hey, we're launching a campus, new one here. This is our needs. What's the best console for us to deploy kind of the next time around. So Tony's been amazing at that, become a really great friend. And they really have a servant's heart to just help churches not make a sale, but get the right thing for your church. And I love that. And then obviously the business side of that follows. So yeah, it's great.
Great. So like when we were, talking about your system, building your system, there were some things of like future needs that came up, right? And so can you speak to a little bit of like the flexibility? I mean, really flexibility, because you talk about, flexibility from the standpoint of like being able to manipulate workflows to get where you want it to be, but also flexibility in the future of being able to add things to the system and kind of what that looks like, and the way with our solution you can build that to meet your not today's needs but future needs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you have to work at a church environment, everything is turned on a dime seemingly. Oh, we're doing this event, we're doing this event, we're doing this event, and you're like, okay. So that was one of the biggest things with Lawo is we're not capped right away. We're not like, oh, we did this orchestra and we have to like not do what we want to do. It's, oh, you need more DSP. You could just rent it, right? Just like you just rent more DSP from them, crank it up for the weekend and go, okay, cool. Got that DSP, did that event, and now I don't need that anymore. And having it sold with, 256 DSP minimum was like, I was like, wait, that's minimum? Like, yeah, that's the minimum we can go for this console. I was like, okay, great. Like,
How large can you go?
how large? It was what, 1024
Yeah.
for DSP? I was just like, well, that's amazing. That's going to last us a long time for being able to do that, because I'm looking for the 10-year purchase basically. This isn't going to move from this desk for roughly 10 years. So it's like, okay, well, I need something that we can scale accordingly. And then one of the scopes was having a broadcast console eventually, because right now everything's done from that one console in front house. So it's like the board said, hey, we want to be able to do broadcast eventually. It's like, okay, we need to be able to do a split well digitally. And we're like, okay, that was the problems with other manufacturers, was doing that split. And with Lawo, it's like, no, just send the stream over there and be done. Like,
Well, because you have a UHD core,
yeah,
just add more DSP.
Yeah.
And because you can do multiple consoles with the same DSP, it's less hardware you have to buy.
yeah,
Right.
It's just like more DSP. Here's a purchase, and then purchase the console or rent the console, like for a weekend. It's like, cool, rent the console, add more DSP, call it a weekend, and you're done. It's not like we need to bring in an analog split and unpatch everything and move it over here. And like,
That's one thing I'd even forgotten about for a couple Christmases, or maybe Christmas and Easter. Even you rented in a monitor console.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brought in a monitor console, brought in extra stage boxes, and it was just like, okay, plug it into the system, add it to home, patch it in, and you're done. Like, it's not this like headache of like, we're gonna unplug everything and plug it back in just for this whole orchestra event. So no, it's very, very scalable, which I always try to look at with those 10-year purchases of, okay, is this current technology, and is the trajectory available to go to the future for us? And
For the
really
both of
is.
you, like the thought of you don't have to buy for the peak needs day one of where you're going to be in 10 years, is you have the flexibility to grow. I mean, have you thought about that as you're kind of in this journey and looking?
Yeah, absolutely. Flexibility is huge for us because, we don't want to limit the vision. Like if our senior pastor comes to us and says, hey, we want to do this big crazy thing, like we want to be able to say, yeah, we can do that, or at least have a pathway where we're not having to buy new consoles. To be able to rent something, that lets us accomplish that is great. So I think flexibility is huge in the church world, the kind of churches that we're at anyway, where, man, these senior pastors are crazy.
So during the process, you, like I said, demoed a console for 3 weeks. You kind of, were evaluating it not just for yourself, but for your volunteers. And so you just kind of felt comfortable with that, right?
Yeah.
What kind of led you there? Is there anything specific?
Yeah. I kind of immediately pulled up the faders, and I just felt like the thing sounds, number one, it sounds fantastic. Like, the preamps are great. I felt like I didn't need to dig into EQ as much. I felt like, I could back off of some of the normal processing I was doing. And then I would say, for me, it's not just single channel sound, but like the summing on a Lawo, I would say is the best out there on any console. Like, so I think summing is one of the things that people don't think about a lot of times. It's like, okay, well, this sounds great on one channel, but how is the console doing at putting all of the sound together? How is it coding that? And I think the Lawo summing is best in the business. And that for me was like one of the things that really blew me away. I also love having, like, as I'm operating in waves, being able to pull waves up on the console. It kind of feels like an extension of the console, and having it right there rather than having to turn sideways and I'm EQing a room and I'm really just listening to my left ear, or I've got to turn like this and, EQ like this, because you only have so much space in the booth. So I love that I'm able to have waves pulled up on the console, and if I need to get to a parameter on the console, if I touch that parameter, it comes up and overlays over waves. So I'm not like locked into waves or I got to switch over and I can't touch a parameter for a few seconds. Everything is still fully available to me.
That's great. So from day one, things have changed on the console. There's been some updates, right? Maybe what are the few things that you've liked in the update process? Maybe where the companies listen to you and go, hey, this would be nice if we had this. I hope we've listened a little bit,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, this is the company that, as far as a soundboard manufacturer, that have requested things and they've actually gotten done, and in a timely manner. You're like, yeah, it's such an odd feeling because you go, hey, this would be great to have, and then a year later, it's done and in my hands. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I actually have. So I go, hey, for the church industry, coming from the youth rooms, we have these smaller consoles that have monitor mixing apps. So the band pulls out their phone, does their monitor mixing. That's our workflow. And I said, I'd love to have that in here. And they said, great. And I said, okay, bye. And then 6 months later, they're like, here's a screenshot. And I'm like, what? You're actually doing it? Like, it's just so strange coming from other manufacturers going, you'll never get this. Like, don't even bother asking. To Lawo going, yeah, you can have that. We can do it. And it's like, okay. So they get this monitor mixing app developed and done, and here's the latest update. Just log into this IP address, and then you're good. I'm like, weird. It works fantastic. Like, and the band's happy. Like, the band's like never been happier now. And I'm like, what a relief. And I get to actually sound check without a bunch of monitor changes, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And then all these other, even like assigning faders. They're like, yeah, we're getting this done for you. I'm like, great.
So now you have a graphical way to just lay out the entire console.
Yeah, just drag and drop.
But that thing is awesome. Yeah.
So it's like all these little feature requests, and even the little things that you think, oh, I'd love for this to happen. They come and they go, yeah. They give them an hour, sit there, type it on their computer, and then you come back to the board. They're like, here you go, it's done. How you wanted it? It's like, what? Like, it's just it's such a weirdly odd, good experience with a manufacturer. That's very rare in the industry still, because it's like going back in time where you're like actually can talk to the manufacturer and feel like they're listening.
And nobody else is doing that,
in
guys.
Vegas.
Nobody else is doing it.
With our team, you got to sit down with senior product manager. You're like, hey, we want to hear from people. We want to hear what people are doing, and we want that feedback.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's what struck me as a customer, and then now as an employee, that the openness for the company, not just me, but the company itself to listen and
dynamic EQ now too.
Dynamic EQ. So it's not just one or two, right? It's everywhere. Every input.
Every input.
Every input.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, like, you should be buying a console that can do all your needs without adding a bunch of junk on the back end. And that's what this does. That's always the game.
It sounds okay.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. Out of the box, and you're using all of their normal signal path without having to do any inserts.
You have actually a rule.
I have a rule for our team at our church is no inserts in the channel. And it sounds amazing. Like, and it keeps everything streamlined and it doesn't fail. That's the beautiful thing about not inserting a extra plugin on the back end is, oh, that thing just died, and then you lose all your signal on that. It's like, nope, just don't insert it, and you'll be good. And we don't need any. You don't need any inserts when it sounds amazing anyway.
Yeah.
So just kind of wrap things up for you as you're kind of looking and on this journey. Like, any specific deal breakers can you think of as far as not just Lawo, but just out into the industry? Is like you kind of have some unique needs, and it's like, man, if you don't have that, I can't even look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, deal breakers. Well, there's a few, but I would say number one is reliability. So like, I think that, like you said, it has to work. And I think that Lawo, in my experience and talking to some other guys that are on it, have been super reliable. That hasn't been my experience with a few of the other console manufacturers out there. And then on the backside of it, because reliability doesn't mean it's never going to break, right? It's never going to have an issue. But like on the backside of that, like when I have an issue, I want to know how quickly I can get somebody on the phone and like how quickly they're going to be walking me through how to fix this thing. So when I had it for a week, we were at camp, this massive camp that we do, and like I had an issue, and we had like a guy logged into the console from Germany like within like 15 minutes. And so for me, that speaks volumes to know like we're here for the customer. We know that this is a mission critical show environment, and we're not going to treat churches like less than, because I think that there are some manufacturers that prioritize churches down in the food chain a little farther, and think, oh, you can go a weekend with putting up some speakers, no big deal. No, like the console has to work. When I have an issue, if I have an issue, how is the service going to be on the back end? How's that relationship going to be on the back end? Not that I want to go calling Tony at 9:30 on a Saturday night, but the fact that I think if I did, he'd probably pick up. But
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. Well, you guys are going to hang around for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of chill out.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing
for
your
having
time, sharing your story. And just thanks for helping out and just kind of being a part of the Lawo family. So thanks.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it, everybody. Have a great day.